We can start, sir.
Okay. All right. So good afternoon everyone. Well, welcome again to the Microsoft 365 study series where we've been looking at different workloads in the Microsoft 365 space. Today we'll be going further with the SharePoint Online. This is supposed to be the third part. And then if we were on the call last week, we had the facilitator take us through the sites, creating subsites, as well as permissions, how to set permissions and give permissions to access the sites in SharePoint Online. So very quickly, without taking so much of our time, I would want us to get straight into it by getting to the part three. I know we've had part one, we also had an interactive session, and also the part two, but this is the part three. And then if there are any questions on the way, I think we're already used to the housekeeping rules, but without that, I'm still going to say it again. So we're going to stick to the housekeeping rules. If you have your questions, you just wait till the end to ask questions. There's going to be a Q&A at the end of the session. And if it's too hot for you to handle at the moment, you can easily drop it in the chat. And then we have other sponsors and other facilitators on the call that can easily respond to your question. Aside that as well, so if you are just joining the call for the first time and you're looking forward to the part one and part two, all this has been made available on our YouTube channel. I want to believe that we are all following that channel, and if you're not, we'll be providing that link in the chat, so you can easily navigate to the channel to find even past videos of this session in the channel. And then I bet with you they are very, very comprehensive, and you may want to take your time to go through each one of them as you continue in your learning series. And then also want to take our time to appreciate the organizer in person of Olajumoke Toriola MJ. She's not on the call, but then we just want to appreciate her for bringing this up. And also to every other part of the leadership team. Oga Emmanuel is here, Nyore, um, and some other people on the call as well. We'll still have some people joining us on the call, just taking our time to appreciate them for the kind of work they're putting into this. I must tell you, it's not easy to make our time, prepare the slides, and also try to share knowledge from the little knowledge we kind of carry ourselves. But then, and then to everyone as well, I want to appreciate you for joining the call. It's a thing to organize a session, and it's another thing to have people actually come to learn. And then I think so far, since we started this series early in the year, I think there's been a lot of success stories coming up. And I must say, I really appreciate you guys. I think I'm going to make my avatar in a way I appreciate you. But this is not how I look. Okay. On a lighter note, I'm actually praying to get beards very soon. So just imagine this is me without the beards. Thank you guys. So very quickly, I'll just call on Nyore so she can take us further into the SharePoint Online with what she has packaged for us today. And as I've said, please let's keep to the housekeeping rules. Ask your questions at the end or drop them in the chat. And please, you can always keep your mics muted so that it doesn't get to distract our facilitator. So thank you guys, and then Nyora, over to you.
Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Welcome to today's session. I will just share my screen and go through the slides, and then we can go ahead with the practical parts of the session. So let me just go ahead to share my screen. Please just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen or something. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. Okay, so today I will take us through apps and web parts, how to add apps to your SharePoint site, add web parts, how to change your language settings in SharePoint, navigation and quick launch, storage metrics, how to create alerts, and files and folder structure or menu. So apps for SharePoint are small, easy to use standalone applications that perform tasks or address specific business needs. Basically, you're adding apps to your site, just like you're downloading an app into your phone to do something specific. You download WhatsApp to your phone to be able to chat. You download Truecaller to be able to identify um, a strange number that is calling you, basically. Yes, so that's kind of explains what apps does. Web parts, you're basically trying to call some structures that you have in your SharePoint site into your home page to make it easy for navigation. So it says when you add a modern page to a site, you add and customize web parts, which are the building blocks of your page. You can add text, images, files, video, dynamic content, and more using the web part listed in this article. This is just an article for regional and language settings. So site alerts are basically you creating an alert or creating emails for you to get notification when something has been done on your site or on your folder, or if you can create different types of alerts for different modifications that has been done on your site. Then this is going to be talking about the folders and file structures and the rest of them. So I will just go right into sites. Like I mentioned during our last class, I said everything that we're going to do, we're going to be doing it on this M365 series site that I created during our first class. So we can see everything that is going on the site and how we keep building it. So I said first thing we're going to do is okay. I said apps in SharePoint. Like I said, apps are standalone applications that perform different tasks. So let's say I want to add an app to my SharePoint site. There are different places where I can add an app. I can come here and say add an app from here. On the home page, just click on new. You have different menus here. You can add an app. Um, from here as well, the settings icon, you can add an app as well. And then you can also go to your site content and you can also add an app from here, right? So those three places you are able to add an app. So let's say we want to add an app and I click on app. It takes me to the Microsoft app, basically the Microsoft store or the SharePoint store, where you can have you can add apps. There are some apps that are free and there are some apps that you would have to buy. So let's go to SharePoint store here and let's see what types of apps we have here. We have different types of apps that you can use. Mostly, most ones I've used is maybe I want to create an employee directory and I don't want to start building something so complex. I can just come here and say I want to get an employee directory app. Most times there are always short videos to explain what the apps does or how you can use the app, and then I can say add app to site. So it just gives you a brief rundown and then you can say add. So once you finish adding this app, it is going to be on your site content and then you can start working with the app how you want it to be. It can take a few minutes to get added to your site content. Um, so it says this app has been added. So I can just go back to site content on my site, and I will see that the app has been added to my site. Okay. Mm. So it's still not there. Sorry. Um, Because you already have this app on your site. You can find it on your site on the site content page. If it's a web part, you can find it in the web part toolbox. Okay. So basically that is how you add an app into SharePoint. There are different apps that you can actually use. You just have to come here or go into the SharePoint store and then search for the apps that you might want to use on your SharePoint site. So we can then go ahead to the second part. I said web parts. So if I want to add a web part on my page, it is basically adding a web part. You can add a web part on your home page, so it is easy for you to navigate, or basically you're trying to change the look and feel of your home page and all of that, or get easy navigations. So to add a web part, you click on this edit button here, right? And then you can say, okay, I don't like the way this is. You can just delete what you already have here. If you want to add something new, or you just want to change um how your SharePoint site looks. So let's just delete everything we have here. Okay, so my page looks blank now. Let me republish so that you see how it looks. So my page is blank. There is nothing on the page. I can say, okay, I want to go ahead and do a new, or change how my site looks. So from here, these are sessions. You can session your site how you want it to be. If I say I want to session it into 3, I want to do 1 or 1/3, or let me just do this. So I can delete this one already. Mm. Okay, so site has been sectioned. So I will click on this add button. There are two. If you this add button is basically to select a dimension or look of how you want the page to be. But to add a web part, you have to hover. It doesn't tell you that this is where to add a web part. You have to hover on the line. Just hover on the page here and you see an add button, and then you click on add. So I can say I want to add a file or a media web part. So if I say I want to upload it from my page, I can just go to pictures. Okay. Okay, let me just do this. Add a picture or video, and let's upload something else. Okay, that is okay. So that's a video. Okay, so I've added that web part to my page. So this is a video that I just added on to this page, right? I can go ahead to say, okay, I want to add a quick link web part. I want to add a YouTube video. Or a YouTube web part. I can add the URL or the link of the YouTube video. I can put it on my site. I can go ahead to say I want to add something from my site, I can say a document library web part, document library web parts, and just pick on documents. So you can go through the list of web parts that we have. There are so many web parts that you can add. You see the Twitter web parts, the Yammer web parts. You can add news, you can add Microsoft Forms, Power BI, quick chats, word clock. You can add that. You can add location web parts. There are different types of web parts that you can add. GitHub. This is the employee directory app that we added. So there are some apps that you would add that would appear in your site content. If you don't see it in site content, on the web part, you should be able to see it there. So you can just go ahead and add any web parts that you want to. Just build your site and then you can republish. Okay, so this is how our homepage looks like at the moment. So I think that is that for apps and web parts. Okay, so um the second thing we have is, okay, apps, web parts, regional and language settings. Sorry. Okay, so I already created my site and I need to change. I want to change the language, or I want to change how my dates are displayed, or how specific things are displayed about my regional or my language on the site. Like I explained the other week, most things that you want to find in SharePoint, just click on the settings icon from here. Sorry, my site is a bit slow because the web parts I added are still trying to load in. So I will just go ahead and open the site again. Okay, so okay, so I will click on site information. To get to site setting, you click on site information, view all site settings, and then you can just search for regional settings. Or so under site administration, you see your regional settings and your language settings. So if you go to regional settings, this basically shows you, you can select the time that you want, because sometimes if you create files or folders and you want it to show in your time, it's best to select the time that you have. So you can just say UTC +1 or any of that. And then English, is it UK or US English, you just basically select whatever you need and then say okay. If you don't change anything, it's advised in SharePoint that if you try to go to a setting and you change something from here to here, and you later decide to say, oh, I don't want to change it again, and you come here, instead of saying okay, just say cancel, right? Since you didn't make any change, so it's better to cancel than say okay. So you go to your language setting. For example, you already created the site in English and you decide to say, oh, I want to change to a different language. You can show advanced settings here, and then you can decide the language that you want to use. So enable translation into multiple languages is off at the moment because we are using English. So if I say I want to um, enable into another language, I can turn this on and then select the language that I want to use. Some time ago, I have I think when I was learning SharePoint, I tried to just select the language here, and I turned it on and I said okay. And I couldn't find how I changed my language setting anymore. I had to create another site, and then I was doing comparison before I was able to change it back. So I don't want to change it so I don't get lost in what we're doing. So yes, this is basically how to change your language from one to another. Just uncheck every other thing that you have here. If you want to change it to Japanese, I click on Japanese, I uncheck every other thing here, and I turn this on, and that would give me what I want. And then override translations, turn it on, and that would give you what you want. So since I'm deciding not to change anything, I'm just going to say cancel and then leave. Okay, so next thing we're going to look at is site alerts. Okay, so where is my site? Okay, so I go to a document library. Let's say, for example, I share a folder with people in my department, and I want them to add files into the folder, or I share a document library with people. I want them to add files. I want them to add folder. I just want to know when any change takes place in this document library or on these folders. So from this, I can say alert me. From your document library, on these three dots here, just scroll down and you say alert me, right? This should load up the, so I'm the owner of the site. My name automatically appears here. So I can say I want to add someone else to receive the alerts with me at the same time. I can add the person here. Do I want email? Yes, that's email. I don't think this is enabled. Yeah, so by email. So select what I want it to do. Only send me alerts when I can say when any change is made, that's all changes, or I want to know only when new items are added on my document library or my folder, or I want to only know when existing items are modified, or I only want to know when items are deleted. I can do any of that. So I can say all changes, when anything changes, when someone changes, someone else changes a document. So basically, you can just create the alert how you want it, send notification immediately, send a daily summary, or send a weekly summary. You can choose the time, you can choose the day, you can choose the time, and then you can say okay. So let's say, for example, you keep receiving notification from a particular document library, and you're not sure you created an alert or someone created an alert. You can come to the document library and say manage my alerts. It will show you this was the alert that we just created, a weekly alert. It will show you what alerts that you have. You can just click on this and delete the selected alerts that you already created. Sometimes you might have issues with alerts not sending emails or any of that. What you can simply do is recreate that alert. Just delete the alert that you currently have and recreate it 80 to 90% of the time. Recreating the alerts works fine. So you can also create an alert on just a particular folder. If you don't want to create the alert on the document library or the whole document library, you can go ahead and create alert on a folder. You can say alert me, the same process that we just went through. You do it for a folder, and whatever changes that are made or whatever changes that you want to be notified for, you'll be notified on that folder. So that's not much, but yeah, that's basically to find out or to get updates on what's happening on your site, or maybe for security purposes or whatever you might need it for, right? So next thing we're going to talk about is, so let me go to the folder. Are these menus that we see here on a folder or on a file? I think they are the same. Okay, so they are different. So let's say let's go for a folder first. So for a file first. So for a file, um if I click on this file right now, you can see that it opens directly on the web. I can decide to say no, when my users click on documents, it should open on the app and not on the web. To do this, I can go into my library settings, more library settings, and then go to advanced. Under advanced, you should scroll down. There's an option to say um, there's an option that says opening documents in the browser. Use the server default, which is open in browser. I can say no, I want my files to open in the client application when I click on files. So I would change the option to open in client application, and then I would say okay. So at this point, if I'm trying to open any document in my document library, it should open in the application instead of the browser. So let's give that a try and see what happens. So you see, the first time when we clicked on it, it opened directly on the web. But now when you click on that, it says open Word. And so it's going to open in the application. You see the difference. So even though I have changed it to that, I can also open it in the browser, but that would be like a step, or not a quick step as it should be. So I'll have to click on this and say open, and then I can say open in browser from here. So it doesn't mean that since I have enabled it to open on the app, I won't be able to open it on the browser. I will still be able to open it on the browser. But I just have to do this and then say open in browser. Okay. So this is preview. If I say preview, it's supposed to basically give me a preview of the documents that I have. Yeah, it's an empty document, so yeah, it doesn't have anything in it. So the next option is to share. We've talked about sharing already. The next option is copy link. So basically, copying link is copying a link of a shared link. So we already have like a link that we shared. So you can just copy a link for someone on that file and send it to the person that you need to send it. Manage access is also about the permissions that we talked about. It just shows you the users that you have or that you have shared that particular file with. Favorite, this is a new feature. So adding favorite, just like you're trying to favorite your file or picture on your gallery, right? So you can make on favorite it as well. You can download the file. You click on download, you can see it's downloading on my PC. You can delete power. This is automate, is to set rules for your file. You can rename, pin to top. So I'm going to talk about this copy to and move to option. We already talked about version history in one of our classes. We just talked about alert me, and we talked about okay, this is okay, I'll talk about checkout as well. Okay, details. Okay, so let me start with move to and copy to. Let me see. So as the name implies, copying to a different destination. So basically doing a copy and paste, right? That's what it does. And then move to is basically doing a cut and paste. copying to will still keep the file on the source. So you're just doing copy and paste. But when you do a cut and paste, it's going to remove the files from where it currently is and move it to the place where you're trying to paste it, right? So let's do an example. So I will just, okay, so I have this document library. Like I explained the other day, when you have documents here, you have documents libraries. If you click on this drop down, it will show you the number of document libraries that you have. So you can easily navigate into the different document libraries that you have. So from this, you can see that we have 3 document libraries. I don't have to go into site contents to find out how many document libraries I have. So from here, I will do a copy. So let's copy, click on this test folder, click on this and say copy to. So I want to copy into a different document library. I can also click from here and say I want to copy it into this, and I say copy here. So at this top, you can see the action that is happening. It will let you know when the copying has completed, or if there is a fail in the copy and any of that. So I can go into here and you see this is the new file that we copied from the document library into this Tolu document library. So if I go here, you can see that the folder is still here and the files are still in it. Nothing has happened to them because I just did a copy and paste, right? So let's do a move and we'll see what's happening. So we can do a move into accounting. Move here. So from here, has a smaller version limit than the source. Earlier versions of this file could be lost. Okay, move anyway. Keyboard. Do we have a folder with the same name? Okay, we have a folder with the same name on that document library. Let me rename this folder. Rename as SharePoint test. And I'll say rename. Okay, so we can do the move now. So we'll say move to. We're moving to accounting. Move here. Move anyways. Okay, so like I said, moving is like cutting and pasting, unlike copy to. Copy to is copy and paste, but move to is cutting and pasting. So if I come to accounting now, you can see that this was what I moved, and you can see it says a few seconds ago. So if I come in here, you see that these two files are here. There's something interesting to know about move to and copy to. Let me open this folder. Let me open this article so that you see what I mean by something interesting. Okay. So this is what I mean by something interesting. It says when a file is moving, it continues to appear in the source document, in the source directory, until it's fully moved to the destination, and then it will be deleted. The file remains in the source site recycle bin after the move is complete and is subject to normal recycle bin schedule unless a user recovers it from the recycle bin. So basically, it's saying that when you move a file or a folder, the fact that we have moved this into a different destination the file would also be deleted. That same thing that we have moved, it would, so the basically what was in the destination, in the source, sorry, will be moved into the recycle bin. So let's go into the recycle bin and see if we have anything like that. We don't have that file in here. Okay, let's see if it is in the second stage. It's not there as well. It's supposed to move, so maybe it's taking a while. Remove it from here. Okay, let's do another test and see. So the files are supposed to be in the recycle bin. So let's rename this and see what's happening, why that is not working. Cycle. Yes, that's gonna be great. Okay, so let's move this to and see what happens with this. Okay, so let's move it into accounting as well. Or let's move it here. Move here. So moving to items here. Done. Let's go to the recycle bin and see if we have anything there. It's still not there. We'll check back later and see if it's just taking some time to move in there. Okay, so basically that's how the copy to and move to works. So when you do a copy, it just does a copy and paste, but when you do a move, it just does a cut and paste, right? So let me just create a new folder into this document library again. Okay, so we have done that. Okay, so I wanted to show us navigations. Okay, sorry, I think I skipped that, which was at the beginning. Navigations and quick launch and then storage metrics. Okay, so if I come back to the site, let's do site information, view or site settings, storage metrics. Storage metrics is under site collection administration. It is basically just to show you the size of the items that you have in your site, right? It usually arranges from the highest to the lowest. And from here, you see what you have used and the storage that you have left. You can also reduce the size of the storage of a particular site. We can talk about that some other time. So I'll go straight to navigations. So all these you see here are different settings, and we have just touched a few. I've talked about regional and language settings. This library and list just shows you a list of what you have, a list of library and list that you have. This is recycle bin, this is storage metrics. I would go into site collection administration, or site collection features and touch navigation. But before I do that, like I explained in our last, I don't know if it's our last class or the class before that, I said this left-hand side is called the quick launch. It's called the quick launch, where you can easily navigate into contents that you have. So you can edit from here and basically try to add. So let me say I want to add Let me just say youtube.com. So you can just basically add any link that you want to. So I can click on this. It's a link. I just paste the URL there, and then I can give it the name I want to. I will say YouTube. So I can decide to open it in a new tab so it doesn't disrupt, it doesn't open in the same page of the SharePoint site that I have. And I say, okay, right. And I have to click on save to save it. So anytime I come to my site, I can just go into my YouTube channel from here. I don't have to, so I can just have different navigation links that I want. Sorry, on this page. So this is called the quick launch. So if I come here, go to site information, view or site settings again. Under look and feel, you have this that says quick launch. So you can add from there what we just did, or also come here and add new navigation, but it's easier to add from there. So I'm showing you this because I'm going to enable the site collection feature, and um, you will see a difference in this. So if I go back to site settings, I go to site collection feature here. There are different site collection features here that would that you can use to do different things, or use to customize your site, or basically change how your site acts or looks or behaves. So what we're going to use here today is the site SharePoint server publishing feature. Most times they just explain a bit what this feature does. So from here I can say SharePoint server publishing features provide centralized libraries, content types, master pages, page layouts, enable page scheduling, and other publishing functionality for a site. So basically what I want to use this for is for navigation. So I would activate this. It might take a minute or less, hopefully, to activate this. Just give me a minute. Okay, while we're trying to activate that, let's see if we can quickly go into something else before that is done. So site information, view site settings. Okay, still not activated yet. Okay, so I think I wanted to quickly go through. So the last time as well, when we were in the library settings, I think this was where, okay, so library settings was where I explained versioning from in our first class, I guess, and where you can have different versions of a site. So I think I want to explain. So this is basically renaming your document library. You can also rename it from site content. You can prevent it from appearing in quick launch from here as well. Second would be, okay, versioning settings. We already did that. Advanced. This was where we changed default link from where we changed the default opening browser document from. We changed from browser to client application. Please hold on. Give me a minute. Okay. Still trying to see if this is activated already. It's taking a while. Okay. So I just hid the folder option. There's sometimes you might have an issue or you might have a SharePoint site. I think I already explained this earlier for this menu. But even when you come here and you see that the folder option is enabled, right? You can see that the folder option is checked. But when you click on new from here, you don't see any option to create a folder. You can go back into the library settings, more library settings, and advanced. Scroll down, make new folder command available. So it was set to no. You set it back to yes, and then you say okay. So I can see that our feature has been activated. SharePoint server publishing infrastructure has been activated. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this has been activated. I'll show you a few things that this has changed. So if I come back here and I go to site information, view or site settings. So I will just refresh this. We can see that under look and feel, we have more options here, right? We don't have the option for quick launch anymore. So if I say edit link, which I had here earlier, let me go back to my home page. Sorry, please give me a second. I'm sorry, I'm back. Okay. So we'll just go back there. Okay, so earlier we were able to edit this. So if I click on edit, it doesn't take me to where I had the easy edit option. So we have a broader navigation part where you can then work on your navigations, right? So instead of you being able to add from here, you will no longer be able to do that. You can then restructure your navigations. You can add a link from here. So we can add the YouTube link that we had then. You can even create an audience. You can say, oh, I only want Nyore to be able to see this navigation that I've created on this site, and then I can say I have to type the whole email. And say okay. So that's this entry is not found. Okay, let's go to here and look for it. Mm. Okay, so I think I'm supposed to add a group and not a user. Okay, so I can add that group and say I want only this group to be able to access the navigation link I have created. So I just added that now, which is new global navigation, and then I would say okay. Mm. Okay, so back to navigations. So I was trying to do so basically if you enable the site collection feature, SharePoint server publishing infrastructure, you would have your navigation like this. So if you're trying to do your quick launch and you see that it's redirecting here, you would know that you have enabled that feature, and then you should be able to do your navigations from here. So you can add a new heading as well. Let's just say testing, and let's say okay. Let's say okay. Sorry, something is not working here. Let's do this one more time. If that doesn't. Mhm. I hope that works. If not, I'm sure there's something wrong. Yeah, so I wanted to show you that um for the navigation. So I'll just explain. Okay, so they are appearing now. This was the testing that we just created, and then what you have at the top. So if you enable that feature, you'll be able to create navigations at the top, and you also be able to create navigations at the side. So the top is called the global navigation, right? While this is called the current navigation. So you have global navigation and you have the current navigation. So the help of that allows you to have these navigations and also have these navigations at the top. So that's what this navigation structure does for you when you enable that feature. Okay, so what else do I show you from that navigation elements? So you can see that there are many more features that were enabled when we enabled that feature, right? So let's see, site collection feature. So one more feature that I would want to show us before we conclude on the session for today is limited limited access user permission lockdown mode. So okay, this is activated already. So on the sharing that we already discussed about, right? If I go to my SharePoint document library, my SharePoint admin center, if I click on sharing, you can see that everything is set perfectly. And if I go to active sites, I say M365. This is the site that we created. Let me go to general and go to settings. You can see that it is set to everyone. Everything looks okay. But you might have a situation where you come to the site and you're trying to share, right? And you click on this, you see that these two are grayed out and you have done everything that you think you have done, and you don't understand why you're still not able to get this. Please go into the SharePoint site collection features and look for limited access user lockdown mode. Site information, view or site settings, go to site collection features and search for limited access. You can see that it is active. Deactivate it. Once you deactivate it, you should be able to share with that option. So I will just go back here and refresh my page, and then you can see the option is enabled back. So the limited lockdown permission features prevents you from having these two access. We can just quickly read what it does. So limited access user permission lockdown mode. When this feature is enabled, permission for users in the limited access permission level, such as anonymous users, which is the anyone link, that's the anonymous users, are reduced, preventing access to application pages. So it prevents, so when you enable this feature, the anyone link is grayed out. Even if you do all the permission from the tenant level, from the site level, and you see that you still don't have that option, just come here. You will see that this feature is activated. Sometimes when you create sites, it is automatically activated. So you might even be confused that you have done everything that you should do, but that's you are still not able to share with the options that you need to do. When you come to the site collection features, you should see that this is active. You can just deactivate it and you should be able to do your sharing and all of that. So I think that's all I have for now. We can go over to our moderator for question, and we can take it up from there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nyore. That was so
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh, that was, I'm sure we all have been able to learn one or two things. I can already see a finger up. I think Joseph has a question, but now is the time to ask questions. So we're looking forward to taking your questions. So Joseph, I'll let you have the floor for your question.
Okay, so thank you so much, Nyore, for your time. So my question is just going straight to this aspect of limited access lockdown permission mode. So what if this is happening on OneDrive storage?
If it is happening on OneDrive storage and you have checked all the features that you are supposed to check, and the sharing setting is allowed for the organization, the sharing setting is allowed on the user as well. In OneDrive, you also have the site collection feature, so you can go there and see if your limited lockdown mode is active, and then you can deactivate it as well. But you hardly see this in OneDrive, because OneDrives are created once a user is created their personal site. So, but if that happens and you've checked all that you need to check, you can also check your limited lockdown for the OneDrive and deactivate.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm currently experiencing this in one of my tenants, and I'm just thinking what I was supposed to do. I'll go and check it out. Thank you.
Okay. For that, you can check on the user first. When you have on the user, when you go to the admin center on the users OneDrive, go to active users, the OneDrive part, there's an aspect that you can prevent a particular user from sharing externally. So you should check that first. If that is not set to be able to share with anyone, you should enable that. But if that is enabled, then you can check the lockdown mode for that as well. So any of that should work for you perfectly.
All right, thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right. Yeah, thanks for the explanation, Nyore. I see we also have Franca's hands raised, but just before we go to you, Franca, I see we have someone sharing their camera and we've not been able to see your face. I don't know if it's just me, but we would love to see your face, Joseph, if you are. I see your camera is on. Don't just put us in the dark, please. All right. So, Franca, yeah, you can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Um, Yuri, can we use SharePoint to send emails, like bulk emails? Yeah, like you could use like the mail merge. Can we use SharePoint to do that?
So SharePoint is basically for collaborations and stuff. But in SharePoint, you have the on the quick launch, when you create a SharePoint, you create a team site. Um you have where you have conversations, right? Where you can um send emails from there, but that is from the group. But for sending mails, SharePoint is not to send mails, right? You can only maybe download emails or upload emails into SharePoint, and then you can share from there. But really, SharePoint is just for collaboration, for files and all of that. It is not for sending mails. You can only say, okay, I want to put some conversations into SharePoint folders or a document library, and then share from there. But it is basically for collaboration and not for emails. I think that's the best explanation that I can give for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for that. Thanks for the question, Franca, and thanks for explaining that, Nyore. I also see we have Precious. Okay, Precious, you can go ahead.
Hi, Yuri. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it. So while you were showing us where you have those drop down for move to, copy to, and the rest, you mentioned delete and rules. So I would like to know what kind of rules users set for deleted files or folders.
Okay, so delete option is different from the rules option. So the delete option that is there is just for you to delete a folder or delete a file, right? But for the rules option, you have so the rules option, if you click on the rules, it takes you to basically Power Automate. So you can create a rule to say when someone does this, or when a folder is created on this document library, I want it to move to another document library. Or once a folder is created, once a file is created here, I want it to send an approval request to another person to approve the file. So when the person checks the file, it approves, and when it approves the file, I want it to move to another document library, or I want it to come back to this document library if the approval rejects. So those kind of rules. So maybe let's just say you can set approval rules for a file or for a document or a folder on the document library. So the delete option is different from the rules option. The rules option basically takes you to Power Automate or Power Apps, which is a different application, but it works with SharePoint. So yeah, you can just create rules basically for your files if you need them to perform a different action when they are created in the document library.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thanks for that. Thanks for the question, Precious, and thanks for the response as well, Nyore. So I don't know if we still have any other question for our facilitator today that borders around all we've read on SharePoint, the site settings, and everything we've seen so far in the last hour. Okay, so I see there are no questions, and that's good. So I would assume that we all understand this concept, and just so that we can brush up on this concept as well again, we'll be having the interactive section for this series, this part 3 by next week. So I'm sure we want to go back and test some of these things in our tenants, and probably build more questions before next week. So we have the chance from now until next week to probably try out some of these concepts, test it, scatter your tenants, and then bring it back to life, and then come back with your questions in the interactive session next week, Saturday. So I would want to appreciate everyone for joining the call. Big appreciation to Nyore for holding it down for the past 3 weeks. Thank you so much. You've been far too kind. And then to every other person on the call, and um, our leadership as well, MJ, the other guys in the leadership. Got Solomon joined us while on the call, Emmanuel, and some other big names I'm seeing on this call as well. We really want to appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining us today. So I don't know if there's any other thing from anyone before we call it a day. Probably any remark or any contribution from anyone.
Yeah, I do. I gave us a task last week and no one has done it. I'm pasting the form again on the chat. Please, let's try to carry out the practicals and the questions on the form before our interactive session next week. If you have any questions, if you're stuck anywhere, you can ask them during the next class. But please, let's try to work on the task that I gave. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up again, Yura. So please, this series has not been organized just so that we keep talking and then we don't practice. We also want to have us to try these things out ourselves, because I tell you, this is a technology and then changes would come, and we also want to experience these changes as we go on with it. So please go into that form and try to fill every aspect and try out each of these tasks. I'm sure you would have questions before the next series on Saturday next week. So that's it for today. Thank you guys again. We're going to be drawing the curtain here, and see you next week for the interactive session for this Introduction to SharePoint Online Part 3. Thank you guys so much. Have a blast.